wondering if it works similar to Crystal Reports, where you can actually link the relationships right in there, or if that is not how it works, basically.
Okay. I'll let somebody else talk. Brian?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. So I'm not really familiar with Crystal Reports, but the Schema Builder does allow you to create new fields, and that would include what Salesforce calls a lookup field, which is essentially building the relationship between one object and the other. So I believe with the most recent update, you can pretty much do everything in the Schema Builder you could do through the with the standard custom object wizard, which includes setting FLS permissions, if I remember correctly. So you can do pretty much everything in the Schema Builder when it comes to building objects and adding fields, including relationships.
Okay, so most of my fields are already created. I'm trying to link. So is there an easy way to link them through there instead of creating it?
Brian, let me address that.
Sure, Deepa.
I'm an ex-Crystal Reports developer, and I used to work for Business Objects long time ago. So first of all, Crystal Reports and Business Objects allowed you to build, it had a metadata layer in between that allowed you to build certain relationships when you wanted to bring data in. The Schema Builder is not that. Okay. You can't have a primary key, foreign key relationships in the Schema Builder. Salesforce works very different in that case, where when you want to build a relationship with another table, it's a lookup field, which is like sort of saying it's more like a foreign key than a primary key. It's not really a primary key at all. And you're like kind of building a relationship from, like, let's say if I had an account and I was creating a custom object for the account. When I want to link that record to the account, I create a lookup from the custom object that I've created to the account and grabbing the account name, and that's what creates a lookup relationship, but there's not really any particular kind of a key in there, because what Salesforce uses, it uses the account ID to create that relationship, and it can exist in multiple different places. So even though the Schema Builder looks like, a traditional database tables, builder, it's not the same concept. So if you want to, if you think like you want to link tables, you can't do it the way you can in Crystal Reports or any of the data warehousing packages.
Okay. Now I have used, again, I'm new, Salesforce admin,
yeah.
So I have created a lookup field, and I didn't have it, wasn't very difficult. It was an easy one. Would you have any other information or any video on more information on that, creating a lookup?
I know that there's a lot of videos on YouTube.
Okay.
The other thing I would recommend is go look at the help files, like if anything you're trying to do. There's a lot of good information in the help files, but what it really comes down to is it's architecting what you want to do, right? Like you literally have to sit down with a pen and paper, draw out what your structure is going to look like, or maybe like a visual, and that's going to help you determine what kind of relationships you want to establish. Now, in Business Objects and Crystal Reports and like any of the other database design tools, you can design like a one-to-many or many-to-many relationship by joining just the two tables. In Salesforce, you can't do a many-to-many by just joining two tables. What we have to do is we have to create a object in between, which is what we call junction object.
Okay.
And that creates a relationship between the two other objects. So let me see if I can find some material on helping you on that. I know that there's a couple really good books that help you. If you go to Amazon, you can find there's a book called developmentwiththeforce.com platform. Okay, it's written by Jason Olette, and I think he's got a new book, and there's a couple other authors who've got new books. If you go through those exercises, they do a very good job of explaining how to build objects and fields and relationships and junction objects and all of that. They cover a lot of that. But the rest of the book is more for developers. But if you still get that and you go through the initial pieces, you'll be able to learn a lot. And then the last thing I'm going to say is if you really need it and if you can convince your company, I would go take the Salesforce admin class, the ADM 201 training class, because there's nothing like learning from those instructors. They're really, really, really good.
Okay. And do you have my information as far as to send me?
I believe we'll Jared, you'll have that information in ReadyTalk, right?
Say that again?
You'll have her information in ReadyTalk, right?
Yes, I can, yep.
Okay, so we can grab the email address to send her some material.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That was Kathleen, right?
Yep, Kathleen at Claritas.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we have another question posted in the chat here from Bruno. I have a need to send out a simple form to a contact one at a time and have them answer a couple questions. I'd like this information to be tracked in Salesforce on a custom object and have it attached to the same contact's record. This way over time we can track who's filled the data out and who hasn't. Can this be done easily using sites? Bruno, do you want to elaborate any more on that, or did that pretty much cover it?
Thanks so much. That pretty well covers it. It's just a matter of I've not used sites before, and I think you can use it just to host simple pages in Visualforce. But I'm wondering if it can be sent so you can still track who that contact ID is, so that way once they save the data, it goes back and somehow links it to them. Is it clear the need, or do you want me to go through it again?
I think that's pretty clear. Does any of the MVPs want to take that, or?
Well, what I'm going to say is I'm not too familiar with sites. I think Brian Kwong's more familiar with that than I am. But one of the products that I find which is really good for that is Forms Assembly, because what it does is it can go look up the ID, and then it saves that data with that contact. So Forms Assembly is a good product for that if you want to do that.
Okay, I have heard of Forms Assembly and it being pretty good for certain things. But so that would be maybe a better way to go as opposed to sites, or does anybody else think otherwise?
Brian, don't you have a lot more experience with sites?
When you say sites, are you referring to sites.com where you're able to build marketing sites, or sites as in the hosting a website through your force.com or org?
I believe it's the latter, where you can just simply put up a page. Yeah.
So I have not. Most of what I've done with sites is literally just hosting a Visualforce page that I've created, and so there's nothing in there that really gives you a guidance for building like the Form Assembly does. It's whatever you type into a Visualforce page or a couple different Visualforce pages, and that can include just Visualforce code, so you're able to retrieve or create data into your Salesforce instance, or just straight up HTML. I've seen a couple people that literally their sites is nothing more than an informational page that's just a drop of HTML that I'm pretty sure they just copied and pasted over from an HTML builder.
Okay, so not much of a form per se. It's more just display purpose only.
You could use it as a form. For example, what I'm using it for is we created a generic Contact Us form in Visualforce. that is hosted as a website in Sites, and then that gets referred to in an iframe in all our other locations that we do Contact Us. So that is a straight up form. It's just that it's using Visualforce, so it's not like you're going to be able to do a click and drag and say, hey, I want an input field here and I want this called here. It is essentially a blank canvas. So if you know HTML and some CSS, it can be a really great flexible platform. But if you're looking for something to really quickly build on a form and don't have that experience, it can be a little bit challenging. And one option, like I mentioned, is you could go and just do a search for an HTML builder, and there's lots of them out there. Microsoft makes one, and then do the click and drag in there, and then copy and paste the HTML into the Visualforce page. You just run the risk of things looking a little funky because not all those HTML builders use the W3C school standard.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm sort of in between anyways, but I'm not looking for something too complicated either. I'm just trying to replace like a Wufoo form as it is. So maybe form assembly would make sense. I'll look into that. Appreciate it.
Another
Thanks
option, couple options I'll throw out there for you, Bruno, that I've looked at in the past are free on the App Exchange. So there's one. It's back from, well, these are both have been released for a while, but there's a Salesforce Labs app called SurveyForce, which utilizes Sites to, allows you to, essentially create surveys and link them to contacts. That's one to check out, and it uses, like I said, it utilizes Sites to, put the form out there, and the interface for creating the surveys a little bit. It's more like drag and drop type stuff, and then it does all the coding and stuff for you.
Okay, that's actually a good idea. Yeah, I'm familiar with Timba to do things like that, but that might work.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Is Timba's another one that I've used, and it works pretty well, and you can get a little fancier with Timba as far as the look and feel of your survey. So
and it can use Sites as well. You're saying on the back end to collect it. Okay, perfect.
Timba uses Sites and it's all native, so that's one to check out as well. I think it's been a while. I think there may be some limitations because Timba's free, so there's always some potential limitations there. But
more than 10 fields or something like that.
Yeah, but those are good ones to check out.
No, I appreciate the insight. Thanks so much, Tal. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This is Susan Thayer.
Hey, Susan.
Just something to add to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got in on the tail end of the introductions. I am
no, you're fine.
New MVP as well. Some things to consider is there is the Flow tool, which can help you with designing your questionnaire on Sites. And you can also use that to kind of cross-check to see if the record is existing as a contact, and if so, update the contact. How are you planning to associate this form that they're filling out with the contact record?
Originally, I was thinking of storing it in a custom object and tying it back to that contact, and then just using roll-ups to decide if they've entered the details or not.
Using email address or a contact ID number?
Probably ID. Probably contact ID, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll look into the Flow tool as well.
Flow is a great tool, yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Brian, I saw your hand is raised. Did you have something you want to throw out there?
No, I must have mistyped or something.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that I wasn't ignoring you there.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. What other questions do we have? Anybody else have questions out there? Feel free to speak up or type it in the chat. Just call on some names here. Okay. Well, Bobby Capulong, maybe? Did I say that right?
No, that's close. I actually don't have any questions. I was just sitting in for the first time to see if I could, I could get some value out of these bi-weeklies.
Yeah.
Thanks, Phil.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Guillermo? Is Guillermo out there? Oh, Linda has her hand raised.
Hi,
Linda,
can you hear me?
Question? Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a customer that they wanted to associate multiple accounts with their opportunities. And at first they used partners, but they wanted more information about the relationship than what is available with the partners object. So what I was going to do was create a junction object and have multiple accounts per opportunity established through the junction object. Is that a smart thing to do, or is there a better solution?
Any MVPs want to take that one, or I can take it? Doesn't matter. I mean, I would personally say I think that's a good idea, especially because if you're going to have multiples on there, you obviously don't want to create 5 different lookups on the opportunity just to link those accounts. So I think the junction object is a good way to go. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
This is Susan there. So you want to associate multiple accounts to one opportunity, right?
Right.
I agree. The junction object does seem like a smart way to go. There is, of course, contact roles, which in theory would allow you, if your contacts are at different accounts, to also report on the different accounts related to that opportunity if you're using contacts.
Yeah, but you'd have to be sure to narrow in on the particular contacts, right? The only way to link to the account would be through the contact.
Right, yeah. It definitely would have some limitations you'd want to consider, but if you wanted to just do out of the box, that's something you could look into. But yeah, junction objects seem logical.
I'm sorry guys, I was talking and I realized that I was on mute. I just did something similar with a client, but the scenario was very specific, right? Like these guys they sell software, and they sell software through, they sell it directly to a customer. They sell it through a distributor, through a reseller, and a customer can buy from anybody. Like they're not committed to just buying from one particular company. And so it got really complex to associate who purchased the license and who was involved, right? So we had 3 fields on their opportunity record, which was, one is the account name is the primary person who purchased the license. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if it's the end customer, if it's a reseller or the distributor. Account name is the person who holds the license. And then if it's through a distributor or reseller, there's another field called client, like who purchased, end user customer, and that links to that end user account, which then pulls all the, billing and shipping information for the end user, actually shipping information for the end user. And then we created one more field that now links to, if it's a reseller, then the distributor, it links it to the distributor so that when you run the reports, you can now aggregate it or summarize it by how much business came from the reseller, which rolled up to the distributor, and which rolled up into the company. So what is your business case exactly? Definitely junction object is a great idea, but you have to kind of think backwards from what is it that you need for reporting. So what's your true business case?
I think, it's kind of easy in that they just want to be able to see what accounts are involved with the opportunity. And
That's
reporting
where
on
you
that is
definitely
nice,
want
but
contact roles. That's where you definitely want contact roles, because one thing that contact roles allows you to do is it lets you choose that particular contact, that is involved in that deal, but also what the role that they play, because contact roles defines which role it is.
right. Okay.
So that's where the contact roles is definitely a better thing to do.
Then what is the difference between that and the partner role and the partner object? 'Cause
They're
you
very
can have
similar.
multiple partners.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say you can have multiple partners and each partner has a role, but that's all they have. I mean, that's all you can say about that relationship.
Now, if you wanted any more information about the relationship, right? Like if you needed to say,
Yes.
like if it was any more than just the role, then definitely junction object makes sense, right? Because then
Okay.
you're building like relationships and gathering other demographics that you need to gather for their involvement in the deal. But if it's just the role that they care about, then I would definitely go with the contact roles or the partner roles. But once
Okay.
again, it's going to come down to reporting. Like, how do you need to report on that, right? Like if they say, I want to see numbers by this, and that doesn't fit in the partner role, then definitely you want to go with a junction object because you'll have a better flexibility for reporting.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, good dialogue there. All right, who else has a question? What about Catherine Nolan? Are you out there? Do you have a... Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Look at that. Go ahead.
I was just wondering what tools have been useful references, if they're books or websites, or if there are certain, like I have like subscriptions to Twitter to I think all of you present here. Like what outlets are good to look for new updates and just reference material?
Oh, I'll take that one. No, this is my favorite topic because I'm a self-taught admin developer person. So I went through basically what you're doing right now, followed a whole bunch of MVPs, and then scoured resources everywhere. So one of the biggest places is the community success, or the success community at, what is it, success.salesforce.com. There's plenty of people as well as groups that you can join that will give you just a plethora of information. You have a question, you can post and ask there, including our MVP office groups. We have a little chatter group out there that you can join and ask questions outside of this bi-weekly setup. Another place is if you're looking for more developy type things, there's the developer.force forums or the Stack Exchange. Both are kind of set up like Answers is, where you post a question and the community helps you address it. Other resources, if you go to developer.force.com, there's a documentation section on the left-hand side, and that will get you to a whole bunch of goodies that are updated pretty much annually, and that includes the Salesforce, or I'm sorry, I believe they call it the Force.com Platform Fundamentals book. And what it is it goes through a scenario of how do you create a custom app in Salesforce. So how do you take a brand new sales org and essentially create a series of custom objects and validation rules and workflow rules. It's a fantastic resource for just kind of getting your whistle wet. And there's plenty of other resources on there, like tips and tricks. And then there's the big one, and that's Dreamforce. Are you going to be going to Dreamforce next month?
I don't think I'll be able to make it.
Oh, well.
I know. It's so sad.
Put it on your list of things to go. Everyone should go at least once, if not every year, if they can do it. And one of the reasons for that is because in addition to the amazing sessions, I think they have over 1,300 this year, there's hands-on training, or they call them HOTS, which goes on every topic you can imagine. And they'll sit you down in front of a computer, and they'll walk you through how to do something. On almost every topic. The other thing I like about that is they'll give you an org that you can take with you for, I think it's 30 days, as well as all the files, which include, hey, here's step 1, you need to do this. And they give you the questions and the answers in 2 separate files. So if you don't necessarily know how to do something, they give you what the answer is to review. It's a nice way to learn. They also have a tendency to give away a lot of the books, which I don't know about you. I still haven't given up on my paper books,
Yeah, me.
which is nice. But all the books that they give you there are also available on that developer.force.com site. As well as the one thing that I really absolutely like getting from Dreamforce though is they print out their cheat sheets in this nice laminated form. And I think I use those at least every month. They go everywhere from developer resources to chatter to just like governor limits, which is fantastic. There's that, and then there's just study groups. If you don't want to take the administrator training exams, like the official $4,000, you sit there for 4 days or 5 days and go through training. There's lots of study guides that are out there that will give you information that you can study on your own pace or join a group of people to study for the certification itself, and that's always a great resource too.
And to piggyback on that, we have started a group on the Success community that does that, where everybody comes together and they study. Like right now, we're almost like 80% done with the group that's going to be taking their exams at Dreamforce. So that's a very good way to learn as well.
Oh, great. Thank you guys so much.
And this is
Yeah, and I also, yeah, go ahead, Brendan.
I was going to add just a little bit to it. I absolutely agree that the Success community is the way to go. I'm also self-taught as an admin, and our org would be probably 10% of what it is without using the community to its fullest use. And I put together some groups that you might be interested in collaboration within the community. So obviously the MVP hours is a good one, so you can know when we're doing these. The one that Deepa was just referencing is called the Salesforce Certification Study Group. I'm also part of that, and I'll be implementing the test very soon. But you can also join what are called user groups. Like there's one that I'm part of, the Bay Area Nonprofit, where people who just essentially have the same goals and live in the same area for both admins and developers can all meet and interact with each other, and then it brings some degree of community.
Okay. Wow, thank you guys so much.
Of course.
And the other thing I was going to add is I posted a link there in the chat, and I think it pretty much, I feel like maybe Brian and Gary Palmatier, another MVP, they should be like the advocates for this, because Gary put this blog together a while back, back in 2012, and it's and yeah, and as Brian posted in chat, like there's just a lot of awesome blogs out there. You have Button Click Admin is a great blog to follow as well. But this blog here, in particular, lists out, a lot of the, basically almost all the resources that Brian listed. So it brings it all together for you, so definitely check that out for sure.
Great, thank you guys.
Absolutely. Who else has a question? Linda, I think you had asked a question. Do you have any other questions or?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm probably going to butcher your name, so I apologize. Madan, maybe? Are you out there? Okay.
Hi, I'm just listening.
Oh.
I was talking, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, sure.
And then Tina, you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I'm listening in to learn from you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. And I don't think did I ask, Dawn, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I know Brian's been helping me. I'm in the process of working with a consulting firm in Mexico to set up the Service Cloud. And I know all about the Sales Cloud, but not a lot about the Service Cloud. One of the things, we're a B2B company, and so the Sales Cloud is all B2B. But the contact center, the Service Cloud, is going to be B2C. And I've got some things figured out about the end consumers calling in and everything. But it's a very unique situation. On the case object, I have to add, all sorts of address fields, because what the contact center is they call up to have a battery delivered to their house or to their office, wherever they're stranded. And I'm trying to figure out, on the case, you have the contact associated to the account, and the account is the one that the contact is associated to. Similar to some of these questions earlier about associating two accounts to an object, this would just be the case object, because the service center is one of our accounts, and we need to associate that to the case, because that would be who's delivering the batteries. Any suggestions on that?
Hi, Don. It's Brian.
Yes, hi, Brian.
How are you?
Good.
So you have a case, and you want the account to be tied to your customer as well as what's representing your service center?
Yes.
There is this, kind of going back to the other question where about multiple accounts, there is the case contact role on cases. You could potentially use that as well. So your case account and the case contact represents your client, and then you have the contact role to be listing what the actual service facility is that's using it. But it would have to be, again, a contact on the account. Let me ask you, is it always just going to be two potential accounts, one for customer and one for service center?
Yes.
So if it's always, please understand where I'm using the word always, going to be two different accounts, you could create a second field that's an account lookup that's called Service Center.
Okay.
So that would work, and that would probably be a lot simpler for your end users in setup, but it does make the assumption that you're never going to have a situation where you have a customer that's being addressed by two different service centers.
Nope, it'll always be one going out.
So if that's the case, I should say if that's the situation, because we're talking about cases. If that's the situation, I would recommend just creating the second field and making very clear that's for the service center. Since it's an account, that might be if you have something on the on your service center accounts to signify that they are service centers, that might be a good use of the lookup filters that you can do now, so your users don't accidentally give them an account that's not actually a service center.
That's interesting, because I was trying to configure that earlier this week to see if it would work.
By that, it sounds like you didn't get it to work.
I didn't get as far as the lookup filters, and I was
Okay.
just starting to configure it when I was in Mexico to show the team what things could look at, because the consulting firm wants to create 15 custom objects and all Visualforce to get cases and service centers to work together.
I always opt for the simpler solution if possible. So if it is truly just, hey, here's the customer, here's the service center, that sounds like a good reason just to have two different fields.
Okay, that's great. That was what I was thinking, but I just needed confirmation.
Yeah. The other reason is if you go down the route of using the Service Cloud Console, that's going to simplify your page layouts significantly than if you're using a bunch of Visualforce pages.
Yes, and we are using the Service Console. I have one other question to go kind of along with this. So since we're adding an address concept to the case because that's where we have to do the delivery. And the service centers have addresses. One of the things that the consulting firm is recommending we do is create custom objects for city, so all the cities in Mexico, and neighborhoods, which neighborhoods are more like subdivisions here in the U.S. And with that, they would have that both on the contact object and the service, the account object, to be able to match those two together. Are there any apps out there? Because I was thinking maybe if we could use geolocation, that if we type in the address, we could use the maps to try to match up versus creating all sorts of custom objects and custom code.
Are the addresses, Dawn, that with all the information, is that the same as like what the contact address could be?
They would be near. So it's basically like if I search for a hotel on Google.com, it shows me all the rest.
You're looking, yeah. Okay, so it's like you want to know the nearest. That there is, I think it was a Summer 13 feature, the ability to create geolocation fields, and that would be probably a good route to go. Is to create the geolocation fields for your accounts and your contacts. You would have to go through a method to get the data filled in for what their latitude and longitude is, but there's a plethora of different options. My favorite one is using the Google Maps API, especially if you can do a little bit at a time. You can even use the free option without hitting your limits. Otherwise, I think there's a fee. I don't know what the actual dollar value is. And if you go that route, it's just one step more to take that information and use Google Maps to show, hey, I live here. Where's the nearest service center?
Are you coming to Dreamforce?
Yes, I am.
Sign up for the Formula Ninja session.
Okay.
You'll be very happy.
Okay, I'll watch that because when I tried to sign up for that, it was filled.
Well, you know what?
Just
make sure you show up in yeah, I think they did. Trust me, you'll be very happy.
Okay, I will. As soon as I get off this call, I'll sign up. I'll go look.
Okay.
Way to pimp Dreamforce, Deepa.
Well, I don't want to give things away, right? But it's going to make her very happy.
Good to hear. That's all my questions for today.
Awesome.
And this has been great. The first time I've called in, it's been very useful. Thank you, Brian, and everybody.
You're welcome.
Good feedback. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, when you come back to Wisconsin, bring some of that warm weather from Mexico.
I tried yesterday. I got in last night. It was 75 when I left Mexico. It was cold here.
Let's see. Who else has a question? I saw, looks like Aaron, you joined the call. You have a question or just listening in?
I just joined, excuse me, to listen in. But I do have
Awesome.
some questions if I'm next in line, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I have a highly matrixed sales organization. We essentially have 5 different selling channels. And one of the channels is essentially the primary, let's call them the quarterback for managing an account, with the other 4 channels in a supporting role for that single account. Now, each of those channels has a management structure, and each of the channels wants to be able to review the activity at a given account by just their own channel. Now, from a Salesforce perspective, we have an owner field, and then we have an account team. And the supporting channels all show up in the account team in most cases, but not in all cases. We have a few cases where the supporting channels are, in fact, the account owner. I'm looking for a way for a manager to, in one report preferably, review all accounts where their sales rep is either the owner or on the account team, and then all of that person's contacts and opportunities. And I've been really struggling to build that type of report. I don't know what an appropriate question is here, but that's something I've been struggling with.
And you've tried like join reports and all of that in Salesforce? Yeah,
and I can't seem to find, I've tried a few different iterations of joined reports, and I'm not getting what I expect, I guess.
Okay. Well, it's a little harder to answer, but when you run into situations like this is where we use a tool called Conga.
Okay. Tell me more about Conga. What does it do that's special?
Well, what Conga allows you to do is it allows you to build either separate reports or even SOQL queries. And then it uses Excel in the back end to bring that data together, and you can automate all of that, and then you get a report output that's either in Excel, PDF, or a Word format, however you want it. And then and you can present it to the managers, right? So it gives you a lot more flexibility in coding your querying and what you want to do and how you want to bring the data together, and their support is absolutely fantastic.
Is there anything that we could do it within Salesforce instead of outside?
If you hit your limitations on joined reports, then I'm more likely to say no.
So there's no other app or anything like that. I know there's like a Grid Buddy or something like that, and I don't know if a Grid Buddy would be something I could use to sort of fulfill the same objective.
I have used Apsona, which is a kind of like a side-by-side comparison to Grid Buddy.
Okay.
But they all still like, it's the fundamentals of querying the data, right? Like if it's like, and the person who was asking earlier about like, she's new and comparing to Crystal reports. If the querying doesn't allow you to go against the data and the way the data is designed, you're going to need an alternative tool, because even if you use Apsona and Grid Buddy, they're still going to go query the database one at a time. It's like they usually query. I mean, you can build and/or statements in there, but I'm not so sure if that's going to really help you, because it seems like your problem is with data being in two different places and trying to bring it together, which is normally what we call data warehousing projects. That's where you have to take data from different databases and normalize it for reporting purposes.
All right. Thanks.
So, I mean, I would go take a trial. Like, if you have a sandbox, go get a trial of Grid Buddy and try it out and see if it helps you. If it doesn't, then you know that's not going to work either.
Okay.
There's no harm in trying it out for 30 days in the sandbox.
Okay.
Susan, I saw you had your hand raised. Did you have anything to add to that, or? Susan, maybe? Okay. Linda, I saw your hand is raised. Did you have another question?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple question. I just want to make sure it's as complicated as I think. So an established system, the customer has some contacts and accounts in an Excel file to be added to the system, and it's very likely there are many of these are already in the system. But we want to basically upsert those. Is there an easy way to do that? If there's no external IDs or anything established, without going to a third-party app?
Probably not. You have to manually click the Find Duplicates button.
You're talking about Excel?
After it's imported. Remember, when you import data, Salesforce, either way, whether you bring it through Data Loader or you bring it through the Import Wizard, there's no way for Salesforce to check if something exists, all right? That's why you have the tools like Demand Tools and Ringlead and those guys that do that kind of checking.
Yeah.
So Salesforce will let you bring everything in. It's like, they won't stop you from that. But then it's like to do deduping within Salesforce, that's where you do need a product like, Demand Tools or even, once again, Ringlead before you can, like, because the only other option is to go into the account and then say look for duplicates, and it'll find duplicate contacts, and then you merge them.
Yeah. So it just sounds like, most customers should really be prepared to invest in a tool like that.
Yes.
If they, if they expect to keep their data updated and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As Diva said, if you want to do it on Upload, you're going to have to do a third-party tool. So.
Okay, because it just seems like such a basic thing. I just want to make sure that that is the answer.
I would think so, unless somebody else feels any different.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
I'm looking
welcome.
at, this is Brendan again, I'm looking at the import wizard, and I was always under the impression that it did a dedupe thing, and one of the resolutions saying that Salesforce.com import wizard will dedupe records based on the spelling of the account and the contact name. So I was wondering if there was anything else that was going on with that.
I believe it looks at the account site, if I'm not wrong. Does anyone remember the ADM 201 class?
Whew, that's been a while.
I know. But trust me, Brandon, even though it says it normally really doesn't. Like I've done exercises where I've been able to bring in duplicate stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it definitely does its best to try to, find a duplicate, but it doesn't do things like fuzzy matches or anything like that, like a Ringleader or Demand Tools can do. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's account and account site. I'm going to have to look in my book again.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Yeah. Okay. I think they're also, haven't they made some changes to the import wizard lately? I mean, maybe not that part, but.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything on that. Have you guys seen anything on that?
It does look quite different. I don't know if they have any enhanced functionality from it, but the system looks way different.
With Winter 14?
Yes. Yeah, it says import wizard beta now, and the overall look of it's completely redesigned. So I don't know if they've enhanced the functionality at all, but it looks completely different.
Well, they might be trying to make it easier for people. So. Have you guys, anybody else seen it? MVPs?
I haven't tried it yet.
This is Susan.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yay, hi. There is some dedupe that it does do on import. It can look at email name, for example, on the contacts. There also are a few pretty decent duplicate finder tools out there. One that I've used recently is Stratus Data Cleanser. It's not going to prevent the load of duplicates, but if you make it part of the data management process to look at it on a regular basis, you can keep your database fairly clean.
Okay. I guess it's not free.
What?
It's not free, I imagine?
No, it's free.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
They have a paid version, but the free version works really well.
Okay.
It creates a report, a duplicate leads, duplicate contacts, and so on report. You just run that report every week or month or however you have it set up, and then you go and it'll say these are potential duplicates, and then you'll check them out, and if they're duplicates you would merge them.
Okay.
The merging of it has to be manual on the free one, but on the paid one it has a button where you can click to merge the two.
Okay.
And there's a few others out there as well that are free, but the free ones have limited features. But if your budget is limited, then you got to work with what you've got.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And then I want to make sure we get, we have about 3 minutes left. So I noticed that Matthew, you joined and raised your hand. Did you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I don't know if this is the right format for this, but I was wondering what a career in Salesforce.com as a consultant or developer, if you don't have a technical background. I have a business degree, and I'm good around the computer, but there's no code. I don't know code or Java or Net, anything like that. So what do you guys see as sort of a career path for someone who wants to be involved in Salesforce without super technical background?
Oh, I can answer that. I am not super technical. I went to college for communications and public relations. So you don't have to be technical. There's a number of different things you can do. There is the declarative method, which is basically clicks is really what it means. Is you can create custom objects, you know how to add values to pick lists and things like that. You do not need to be technical at all to learn how to do that. And there's a number of places that you can learn how, including taking the ADM 201 course. And that basically leads you down the path of, hey, you can be an administrator, or you can become a consultant that specializes specifically in the declarative development of Salesforce.
I guess I should give a little background on myself. I took that ADM 201, and I'm taking my certification at Dreamforce for certified admin. And from what I've seen on the study guides, I've done everything up to the beginning developer certifications in Salesforce, except for Apex and Visualforce. I've done all the apps and workflows or validation, whatever you want to say for that. So anything that's not coding, that's clicked, I feel like I've done before. So I'm just sort of wondering how far you could go with that.
You can go a long, long ways. Even as a consultant, you can do a lot as long as you kind of know, when should you use clicks and when should you use code. For example, you may want to take a look at the Developer 401 cert, which has no coding whatsoever. It's more along the lines of things like when should you use a trigger versus a workflow. Right. And if you have a good understanding of that and a good understanding of, hey, when should you create a field versus a related list, you could do a lot even as a consultant, where if you run into a situation where you do need to run code, you can subcontract that out or offshore or just not accept that project at all. You are still in an excellent position to do administrative work, and that is a huge, the spectrum for if you can do admin work is gigantic. You could just be an administrator. You could lead an administrative team. You can go in and help be a recruiter for people who are hiring people for administrative. I mean, it's gigantic. One thing you can think of if you're going into Dreamforce, there's almost always a session track that's kind of about how, career-wise. If you're not going to Dreamforce or you want to look at now, there was a really nice presentation that was done at last year's Dreamforce that it's out on YouTube. And that talks to you about, okay, what can you do in this big platform that is Salesforce? What type of careers are there? Where can you go? You could be a business analyst, for example, where you don't actually have to do anything except for go out and talk to people and figure out what they actually need versus what they say they want.
Okay, have you done any work so far though, besides taking the classes?
I've been an admin for about 2 years now.
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
I'm just sort of looking ahead.
Oh, there's a lot you can do. Definitely a lot.
Okay. Yeah, just this question I brought up because when I see jobs for developers, they'll say, "Oh, Salesforce developer needed 3 years experience Salesforce," and then they'll list, .NET and
they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about.
That's very, very common.
I see them on the LinkedIn developer user group. I'm not a certified developer, but I'm in there and I see that and I'm like, okay, that's over my head.
It more than likely it just means that you have someone that knows that needs someone that works on the platform, but they really don't know what that means. A lot of companies struggle with what does it mean to be a Force.com developer, exclusively a Force.com developer. And so you get people say, hey, we need someone to do .NET because everything else we do is .NET without realizing Salesforce doesn't use .NET. Those are the type of people, if you're going to go there, have a conversation with them. Don't just send them an application.
Okay. Yeah, well, I will be going to Dreamforce this year, and I took as many developer courses as I could. I'm pretty sure if we're talking about the same session, I have seen that career on YouTube, and yeah, hopefully I'll be certified by Monday before Dreamforce. Thanks for answering my question, guys.
You're welcome.
And the next thing is make sure you network. Network. This is all, you will be surprised what opportunities will open up for you.
And also a great place to do that is the Success Community Zone.
And also introduce yourself to Steve Moe, because he has kind of an interesting story. He definitely doesn't have the educational background, and he's one of the most respected people in the community.
Yeah. He might not know me so well, but I know him because he's definitely answered a few of my questions.
Yeah, you probably owe him a beer.
I'm on the list of owing him a beer, yeah.
I'm bringing him a six-pack.
Another thing you can do to get some experience is do some pro bono work for a nonprofit. There's lots of opportunity for that, and it can get you some experience into what a consultant would do and if this is the right career path for you.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, guys, we are officially overtime, so appreciate everyone joining today. Hopefully this was helpful. We'll have another one in 2 weeks from now, so look for that. Sign up. Definitely join the group on the community if you haven't. And if you're coming to Dreamforce, come see us at Dreamforce. So we'd love to chat. So thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Thanks,
you,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Please stand by.